For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, we are live and amplified. So let's get ready to podcast.
Fire it up.
Welcome, everybody, to another live and amplified livecast. I'm your host, Tom Quiet, and we are back at it again with another amazing podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. We have Zach Cornell. Did I pronounce the last name right?
Yeah, that's right.
Perfect. First off, I want to thank you for joining us. How's everything? Just found out you're a few hours north of me. How are things going up in North Texas?
Oh, good. It's good and cold.
Yep. I 100% feel that one. It's I think it's just cold all over in Texas right now.
Yeah, it sure seems like it.
And then you've only been in North Texas a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, we came down. My wife's a travel nurse right now, so we came down and we're here through about March.
Okay, cool. My buddy's fiance is also a traveling nurse, and he keeps saying that they're probably going to end up in Texas at some point just because they got so much work available down here. I was like, well, I ain't seen you in 10 years, so come on down, you know?
Yeah. But, any excuse to get back to Texas for sure.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But so once again, I do want to thank you for taking the time to sit down and chat with us. For the people that are just getting to know you or just getting introduced to you, what's kind of your background story? What got you into music? Stuff of that nature, like think comic book origin story number one.
Yeah. Well, I'm from just outside of Amarillo, Texas, in a little town called Clarendon. I actually came to Wichita Falls for college a few years back, and I kind of got into singing and playing then. I'd always done it kind of passively. I know my older sister had got a guitar when she was in high school, and I guess I was in about sixth grade, and I just wanted to play because she didn't want me to play it. So I'd never really had the whole childhood dream, of I'm going to be a musician, I'm going to write songs, and it just kind of happened. I had a couple good friends in college up here that really twisted my arm into doing some little coffee shop gigs and some open mics and stuff like that. And that was great because I never really knew what I wanted to do with myself. So I just fell in love with it and kind of went from there.
Nice. And who were you, like when you first started playing and writing your own music, who were you listening to for influences?
A lot of it was guys like Jason Isbell, Ray LaMontagne. At first, those were kind of the guys I first got into. Then I got into the Texas stuff, Cody Johnson, Randy Rogers, all those guys. And I think kind of met in the middle there between all those different styles.
Gotcha. And so you're not right now. You're in Wichita Falls, but normally you're based out of Nashville. How long have you been in Nashville?
Just about 3 years.
Okay. And was music the primary reason you went there, or what was the primary reason? Yeah,
my wife, she told me when she graduated school a year after I did, and I'd been kind of just hanging around Wichita Falls playing dives on the weekend and stuff, and really twiddling my thumbs. And she said, why don't we just go to Nashville if you're going to try music and at least find out if we can hang with the big guys or find out if I should get a real job,
Yeah, for sure. And how's things in Nashville been treating you?
That's been good. I mean, there's definitely a lot of competition there, but everybody's rooting for each other and everybody is excited when something good happens for somebody. And it's just a really cool scene. So I've been blessed to be a part of that.
That's awesome. That is the one thing. I've been to Nashville a few times, and that's the one recurring thing I keep hearing, that even though you'd think it'd be a situation where everybody's competing against each other and it's very cutthroat, but it isn't. Like, it's very community driven.
Yeah.
And especially like once you kind of find your family or your creative tribe, however you want to describe it, once you kind of find your collective, it's even more like support that you have. So which is really cool. And it's always made it really interesting as to reasons why people should go to Nashville, just because it's not that you'd think it'd be like a really cutthroat industry place, but it's not. So
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's almost like a perfect medium there. Everybody there can sing and play just as good or better. And I never really expected everybody to be so welcoming and so just generous and good people.
yeah, absolutely. So you released an album back in 2020. Devil's Been Working. That was your debut album.
Yeah.
Was it released during the pandemic, or was it just because I can't really tell when it was released off of Spotify and whatnot? But was it released?
Yeah, I guess it was. Yeah, it was. It's kind of all that's kind of a blur, I think I put the first single out kind of halfway through that first weird year where nobody really knew what was going on.
Yeah.
And I put the full album out in November of 2020. Okay. So I guess it would have been. It's kind of a weird time.
Was that always kind of the plan to put it out then, or were you shooting to have it out earlier?
I was shooting we recorded it January of that year.
Okay.
And I was really shooting for like June or July. I wanted to do it in the summertime, and this comes up and that comes up and stuff gets kind of pushed. And so I really just put it out as soon as I could.
Gotcha. And just talk about it. How does it feel that now that it's coming up on 2 years since you've recorded your debut album? How does it feel? Like, what kind of goes through your mind knowing that it's been 2 years? I guess that's a better way to word that question.
Yeah, I keep looking at it, how different things are since then. I mean, I think I was pretty green when I recorded that, and I didn't really realize it at the time, of course. And I love the songs and I'm proud of them. But it's cool to see kind of where my writing was and everything 2 years ago and have a kind of a benchmark to compare it to with what I'm putting out now.
Gotcha. Which you do have some new music coming out, and we'll get to that in a minute. But just kind of as it just kind of in talking about like the creative process and stuff, since you've already released an album and you're preparing to release more music, what did you take away from releasing that first album that you're kind of leaning into, or would you learn from releasing the first album that you're applying to this next set of releases, whether it's singles, EPs, whatever it is?
Yeah, I learned that you really do have to market everything. I think I knew that going into that one, and I did a little bit of that. But I definitely spent most of my budget on recording, which of course everyone tells you not to do. And then everybody has to learn the hard way. But I learned that I need to set aside about half of what I want to spend for pushing that and getting it to people's ears, because it doesn't really matter if it's great music or terrible music. If nobody hears it, it just really doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's that weird thing because you want it to sound good. Like, you definitely want it to sound good, but if they don't hear it, then why'd you put all this effort into making it sound good? Yeah. But then again, you also don't want to get that negative like feedback that, oh, it doesn't sound good, but all these people are hearing it. So you get that reputation of not having good recordings. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird catch-22, but
yeah, it's a fine balance for sure.
Yeah. But then again, you also have those people that they'll kind of forgive bad recording if the music's good and they can understand and relate to it. So
sure.
So off of the original album, what's your favorite song to play right now?
My favorite song, I think it's been the same the whole time. It's called Next to Mine. I think it gets the best reception, and it's I don't think it's anything that's just crazy good writing or anything. It was just a little love song I wrote a few years ago for my wife. Just one of those songs that kind of came out in just 5 minutes or so, and it's simple lyrics and it's just 3 chords and there's not much going on, but I think everybody can relate to it that's felt a certain way about people. And it's nice to see people dancing to a song or people relating to a song or wanting to show it to their boyfriend or girlfriend or something like that. It's kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah, it's always good when you have a song that people can relate to and it's just one of those songs that when they hear it, it's like, oh, I love this, so that's always really cool to have that kind of always in the back pocket.
Mhm.
So kind of looking forward to your next set of releases, what do you have planned? Where are you kind of at right now creatively?
Yeah, I've got some songs recorded that I'm really, really excited for. I think they're really great, really high quality. I think I found a better balance of what we were talking about a minute ago of
Yeah,
making sure I can get it in front of people's ears, but also having the best session guys and the best mixing and mastering that I can get on there. So I'm really excited about them. They're a little bit more kind of honky tonk stuff than I used to do, and like I did on the last one. So I'm excited for it to just be out for people to hear them and see how things have changed since Devil's Been Working came out.
gotcha. Cool. Now, are these songs that you've been playing for a while, or are they all 100% new? Nobody's ever heard them anywhere.
I play about 3 of them live pretty often. I play out in Nashville several times a week, and I usually throw them in. And a lot of times I don't even really say if they're my own songs or not. Just kind of fill in the room. But one of them I co-wrote with a friend of mine, and I try to play it out every time I play out with him or anything like that.
Gotcha.
But they definitely sound a lot different. They got the full band sound behind them, and I think that'll be basically a whole new song.
Cool. It's always good to give it a nice little twist when like it's a song that you've been playing for a while, then you go record it, and it's not that it's a completely new song, but it sounds like a completely new song or a completely new feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, as far as your live sets go, what is a normal live show for Zach Cornell? Like when people come out to see you, is it pretty much just you solo, or will you have a band with you? What is a kind of a live show?
Yeah, I really do a lot of all of it. I do a little bit of playing by myself, and when I do that, I'll play a lot of my songs and a lot of covers that I really like, and really just whatever I feel like playing that day. And then I'll do some with 2 or 3 guys, and we'll kind of just all play together and kind of jack around for a few hours. And then I do a lot of full band stuff where we pretty much do like 90s country and outlaw country and stuff like that, and really just have fun and not worry too much about the originals and that kind of stuff, and just play music for a little while.
For sure. And have you been playing a lot in Wichita Falls, or since you've been down there or up
No,
there?
I hadn't. We kind of had a crazy time getting down here. We've got a son that's just going on a year almost, and me and him were both in and out with ear infections and all kind of stuff, and we were just laid up and taking it easy for a little while. So we're finally kind of getting back in the swing of things now that he's feeling better, and I'm looking to do a little bit of stuff in Dallas area and Oklahoma City area, and maybe a little bit in Wichita.
Cool. Yeah, because you're like right in the middle there, right between Oklahoma City and Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And from what I understand, I haven't been up to Wichita Falls. They have a pretty good like singer-songwriter, like not necessarily country, but just like singer-songwriter music scene up there. I know a few musicians that go there, and a few musicians that are based out of there pretty regularly. So
yeah, and it'll always be kind of a special spot for me because that's where I played my first gig, and did my first open mic night and everything. So I'll always like playing out here if I get the chance to.
Nice. So you were in Wichita Falls when you started playing music professionally?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if I'd call it professionally.
Yeah.
That was a 2-hour gig on the weekend, here and there, but as professional as I could get at the time.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk about that a little bit, since you happen to be back in Wichita Falls. Do you remember the first show that you played?
Yeah, the first paid gig I ever did was at a little coffee shop in Wichita Falls called Frank and Joe's. And it was one of those where just about everything that could have gone wrong did. They double booked me with another guy, and then it was just all kinds of stuff. And I had no idea that was just standard stuff that happens all the time. You know, it happens every week in Nashville, but I remember being so overwhelmed and made me kind of second guess wanting to do it for a little while, because I was thinking, man, this is kind of wild.
Yeah, for sure. So they intentionally double booked you, or they accidentally double book you?
I've never really got the full story. I've always assumed it was accidental, but I don't know, maybe they got to second guessing me and add another guy on there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have heard some stories where if the musician is like so new that they don't think they can fill a full 2 hours or whatever the agreed upon time is, they'll have somebody on standby.
Yeah.
But because, like, I mean, there's only so many times you can rip out like the same cover over and over again.
Yeah.
They're just kind of like,
I know what you mean.
okay, third time we've heard, you know, whatever song. So
yeah,
that's
for
kind
sure.
of interesting. And then, so obviously, like we'd mentioned, you got some new songs coming out. Where are you kind of at as far as writing? Are you always writing, or where are you kind of at right now?
Yeah, I kind of go through phases. Like when our son was born, I don't think I wrote a song for 3 or 4 months just because we were so busy, and obviously that was the priority and still is. But now that he's getting a little bit bigger and not quite as much maintenance nonstop, I find a little bit more time to write, and I might go a month where I don't hardly write anything, and then go a month where I write 15 or 20 songs, and they may not all be good, but it kind of just goes in phases like that.
For sure. And how do you do you find that you're a little bit more free flowing with the writing, or do you have to be, now that you have a kid, that you have to be more like, not militant, but more more aware of your time and like dedicated? There you go. That's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. It's definitely changed the way that I do write, because I used to, you know, if I'm sitting around and I think of a song idea, I sat down and I wrote it, and might sit there for an hour, might sit there for 6 or 7 hours until I get it just how I like it. And now it's kind of, if we're doing something, I might write down a hook line or something, and that night I write a verse, and a week later write the chorus, and a week later do this or that. And so a lot of them are a little bit more prolonged than they used to be, but maybe that makes them a little better, get a little more time to marinate on everything.
Do you find it harder to keep the songs consistent, or as like the feel of the song? Because like if you're like, let's say right now you're working on a song about a sad song, and when you started writing it, you were like really in the moment of what the song was about, but then you got to put it away for a week. How do you kind of get yourself back in that moment? Or you get the question I'm kind of asking?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the downside of doing it that way is, you know, you might be down one day, and then, I mean, that kind of happened to me a couple months ago. I had a chorus for a song that I really liked that was real sad and depressing, and I had to set it aside, and then I kind of forgot about it. And then when I rediscovered it and my notes on my phone, I kept trying to write a verse to it and I just couldn't ever get anything that I really liked, because I wasn't really in the mood to write that. And finally, I guess I was just feeling sad one night. I finally was able to polish it up a little bit, but it's kind of been a thing of where I have 100 different notes in the phone that are halfway written songs, and I do a little recording all of them. So I'll go through, if I'm just in a mood to write or have an extra hour, and listen to some of those and see if one of them kind of hits me just right at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And are you mainly still handwriting, or are you writing on your phone, doing the voice memos, or where's that?
Yeah, I used to handwrite everything, and I loved it because, you know, you have the physical copy of the first time you wrote it, and I like that kind of stuff, and it's scribbled out, and, you know, you see the chord changes and everything. But when I got to Nashville and really started co-writing, I realized how much it made so much more sense to write on the phone and write on like Google Docs and stuff like that. And be able to share stuff. So I've totally switched over to just writing on the notes on the phone, as bad as I hate to admit it.
Yeah, I got you. And that's like you. I over the last 2 years with COVID and all that stuff, a lot of the musicians have gone over to Patreon or like done the various fundraising apps to get an album off the ground. And some of the stuff that I've seen is they'll get like as one of the prize perks or whatever is like their handwritten notes for specific songs. And I started getting a bunch of that stuff, and I'm like, this is really cool. Like, yeah, is it mass produced? Maybe. Like, I don't know how many different versions of these notes they're handing out, but it's still cool because it's like essentially a one of a kind, and it's kind of unique. So, but then nowadays, as much as people write songs or take down notes, or if they're driving, it's like, oh, hey, red for art, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
It like the phone just makes sense nowadays. So
yeah, it's kind of weird. I have the same thing like you're talking about. Is I like being able to give away the notes to a song or the stuff like that, and I guess you can still do it, but it's not necessarily just the total original thought.
Yeah,
and everything. It's a little different.
Yeah, you're just kind of like, oh, this is what I think I would do. But like when you were actually writing it on paper, it's like you could see, oh, instead of this chorus, they were thinking about using this line. Oh, that would have been, and you kind of get a little bit of a deeper look inside of the creative process and what they thought would work or wouldn't work. So
yeah,
that is kind of the interesting part of that whole ordeal. Do you know the kind of release schedule for the upcoming set of releases, or do you know what's going to be released when? Have you made anything official, semi-official?
Yeah, I guess more on the semi-official line of things. I've been debating between which song I want to release first, just because I have two that I really, really like out of the ones we've recorded. And I know whichever one it is, it's going to be towards the end of February. Now I think we're going to kind of keep them about a month apart then and release either an EP or a full album after that, depending on how things go and how any future recordings might go in the meantime.
Cool. And are you looking at doing any like music videos, or are you just kind of staying? Because I've noticed that you've done a few like live sessions as well that are up on your YouTube channel. Are you looking to do more of those, or do you see yourself eventually doing like full-blown music videos?
Yeah, I think I'd like to do a little bit of both. I've always kind of been slow to the video side of things. I was really late to the YouTube party. I just never did get around to putting anything on there really, because I didn't have any idea how. Now I like the little acoustic videos and stuff like that, but I definitely intend to do some more produced and full out music videos for these songs.
Cool. And it's just it would be for the newer stuff. You wouldn't try and go and revisit any of the older stuff?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe a couple of the ones that have done fairly well are the ones that I really like from the old album. I might sneak a couple in, but the priority is definitely doing these ones first.
Gotcha. So, and being that you're out in Nashville, who are some of the musicians that you're working with out in Nashville?
Yeah, the guy I work with most, he's really been kind of a mentor to me. It's a guy by the name of Jack Gavin, and he's a drummer, and he actually recorded and produced the songs we just did. But I met him down on Broadway. I was playing, and they kind of just threw a bunch of us on stage and didn't know who anybody was or anything. And we hit it off, and we've been playing together for, I guess, a little over 2 years now. And he's just been a great mentor and a great source of information since moving to Nashville, and has told me everything pretty straight. And when I'm doing something that's not really working or when something is working. And he actually hired all the guys that we recorded with. He brought them all in. So I just totally trusted him to get the right sound we were looking for. then I play with a couple guys down there that are way bigger guys than I am. You know, there's so many great players in Nashville that you could throw a rock and you're probably going to hit one. And so I kind of cycle out a lot of players, and because guys are on the road and guys go on tour, and so then it's kind of next man up. But there's so much talent and so many great people that I could just, you could write a book over just the musicians in Nashville, you know.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just all the different stories and all the people in Nashville. Like, you could definitely write a whole trilogy of books.
Yeah.
A whole trilogy of trilogies.
Yeah.
But I was just looking at your Facebook, and it looks like we got a couple of mutual friends, which was kind of how did you run into Brandon Luscombe? Or
Oh yeah, in Wichita Falls.
Yeah.
He managed a couple of the bars I played in. And I think we did a few shows together.
Yeah.
Back, it's been a long time now, but yeah, he was always a great guy, and always really liked his style and liked the kind of stuff he was writing.
Yeah, I met him 6 years ago, maybe a little bit closer to 5 years ago, when he was living out in New Mexico. And then shortly after, he moved out up to Wichita Falls.
Yeah.
And ever since I moved out to Texas, I was living in Roswell, New Mexico at the time. And then I moved around a couple places, and I ended up here in Waco. And ever since I landed here, he's like, dude, you got to come up to Wichita Falls. And it's like,
Yeah.
all right. Then COVID hit. And
Yeah.
so it's just like, maybe soon. We'll see how it goes.
For sure.
So.
Yeah, I definitely need to look him up while I'm down here and make sure we get together.
Yeah. But no, I saw that and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. But then again, I was like, oh, I kind of know how Facebook works. It's like, if you're played once, you add each other, and then it's just kind of like, you know. So I figured I'd just ask.
Yeah.
But outside of music, what's some of the stuff that you do? Obviously, you got the family to worry about, but when you need some just like decompress, what are some of the stuff you do?
Yeah, we like being outside, doing kind of anything that doesn't require sitting on a couch if we can help it. Of course, in wintertime, that's a little tricky, but
yeah,
me and my wife raise chickens and goats, and so we spend a lot of time jacking around with that and doing stuff like that outside. And of course, growing up in Texas, I'm big on hunting and fishing and all that, and we try to do that as much as we can. Of course, it's been a busy year with the baby, so we hadn't done as much of the things like that, but I think we're going to hit it hard next year and make up for a little lost time with him. So he'll be big enough to kind of tag along on stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you come down to Texas to hunt, or will you hunt like up in Tennessee when you're back up there?
I've never hunted in Tennessee. My dad has some land over by Amarillo that I'll probably weasel in there and do a little hunting.
Gotcha. Because I know it's a lot easier to hunt when you're more familiar with the area, when you're kind of going places you're not overly familiar with, unless you got a guide or somebody that knows the area, you know.
Yeah.
I got a lot of friends. I got a lot of friends that hunt in Southern Illinois. So when I was going to school, that was the thing. We always had fresh deer meat, and then during turkey season, we always had turkey and dove and all that stuff. So
yeah. You can't beat it.
No, you really can't, especially the deer meat. The wild turkey I could kind of do without, because I'm not too keen on having to dodge the bird shots, the pellets, the shotgun pellets. I remember the first time they were like, yeah, just watch out, because this wasn't the cleanest kill. There might be some shotgun pellets in your meat.
Yeah.
I'm like, cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always interesting. Cool. So we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what's the live schedule looking like moving forward? Are you actively booking shows? What's kind of the thought there?
Yeah, I'm booking a little further off right now, just because while the wife's doing this contract, I'm staying at home with the baby a little more, and then she's gonna be off starting in March, and then I'm gonna really hit the touring twice as hard. I know the summer's always been the best time for me to play, and I usually can book more shows than I need to book, and just stay busy enough there to make up for lost time in, say, January, February. And we're going to try to do a little bit more traveling and
Mhm.
I've got some stuff booked out in Colorado and Arizona and a few places I hadn't really hit in the past. And I think that'll be a good time.
Nice. Have you ever played in New Mexico at all?
I haven't. It's on the radar. I've been
Yeah.
looking at kind of making the loop there, coming
Yeah.
through.
There is a nice little loop you can play. You could definitely do like Albuquerque, Roswell, Las Cruces. There's a nice little 3-city loop that you can do there. So
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. I love Albuquerque.
yeah, I mean, everybody keeps trying to get me to move to Albuquerque, but it's like I
Yeah.
kind of enjoy my life. I don't want to.
Yeah.
For anybody out there listening, Albuquerque's not the safest place in the world to live. So, but and plus it's up in the mountains, and it's just like I can handle the high desert, but the mountains that's a different story. That's a different whole. That's a whole different thing. So.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's good for about 3 days.
Yeah, they're good for a weekend, and then it's like,
Yeah.
I'm out.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So, but no, cool. So you're planning on booking shows? Do you do festivals at all, or is it all just from shows and?
I hadn't ever really gotten into the festival scene. I've been looking at kind of getting up to that. I never really thought I was ready for it. I used to make a lot of excuses and not really try to get into it, but I've got some people that are throwing some lines out, and hopefully we'll get a little more involved in that next year or two.
Cool. And then one final question before we kind of wrap this up for you. What's one thing you miss about Texas that you can't get in Nashville?
Oh man, a lot of things. Buc-ee's and Whataburger, I'd have to say.
What's your go-to order at Whataburger?
Patty melt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. I recently tried I don't even remember what it was. It was like a chicken sandwich or something. It wasn't bad. So, and then Buc-ee's, man, you just can't go wrong with Buc-ee's.
Oh yeah, I could spend a whole day in there.
I had a buddy that was like, "Hey, or he asked me what Buc-ee's was. I was like, "Oh, you never been to Buc-ee's?" And like, I purposely drive out of my way to go to, like, if I know I got to go to Dallas or something, I'll go the specific way to where I land into a Buc-ee's or something. So it's, yeah,
I know what you mean.
It's good stuff. But anyways, if anybody wants to check out your music or any of the cool shows you got coming up, where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah, every platform. It's just Zach Cornell Music. That's Zach with an H and Cornell like the school. I think anything, Instagram, Facebook, all that, it's under the same name on there. And that first album we were talking about, it's on Spotify and Apple Music and anywhere else you can stream music.
Cool. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a blast sitting here chatting with you for a little bit. And whenever you got the next big release, whether it ends up being the album or the EP, feel free to reach out. Love to have you back on.
Yeah.
And thank you everybody for tuning in, and we will catch you all later.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Cool. We're clear.